Winters,
Here.
Laura, Dowling,
Here.
Swallow, here, Bear, here, Brooks,
Here.
Parsons,
Here.
Bowman.
Here. All right. I'm going to recess the City Council meeting and go to the Alva Economic Development Authority meeting. Can you call the roll, please?
Winters,
Here.
Laura, Dowling,
Here.
Swallow, here, Bear, here, Brooks,
Here.
Parsons,
Here.
Bowman.
Here. Okay. Item number 3 on the agenda is discussion and action to approve the proposed change order to the synthetic turf install project to create adequate drainage for a cost of $326,962. As they've gotten going, I don't know, Court, if you want to talk?
You're good.
Okay. As they've been underway with the drainage project for the fields, or with the turf project for the ball fields, ran into some issues with the lack of slope out on the rec complex. The size of drains that were needed to move all the water off of the field, if you put them under the field and get them out of the playing surface, they are going to be real tight to the surface of the ground, which would create some issues not only for potential damage to the drain lines, but also for potentially even injuring athletes and stuff like that as they play. So the contractor went out and got plans re-engineered to be able to put in appropriate drainage, and that comes with a price tag of $326,962.
We've got some deducts, so that number is not what we're going to pay. How much? What's the number of deducts, of course?
We've got $297,000 in deductions so far, and we're anticipating that there's going to be we anticipate there's going to be more deductions because the compaction of the soil is such that we're probably not going to need, what do they call it? Stabilization as what was quoted. And so whatever we don't use would be additional money that's available. So while it's not going to be a budget neutral change order, it is one that is going to be within the original budget for the project. So the Parks and Recreation Board met yesterday, and I wasn't there, but Gail, would you like to share anything?
No, you said pretty much everything. It was just that everything is flat and it's just not going to drain well, so that we need to make changes.
If it doesn't drain and that water gets underneath the turf and just kind of builds up there, it'll float the turf, and if the turf floats, our warranties are voided. And so to protect the investment, the drainage has to be right. So
that's the problem with the current fields as they were pooled. So if it rained, there was ponds out there.
So they can't do dirt work to raise the level of the fields to let it drain?
This is the dirt work.
That's just the dirt work?
Well, it's dirt work and materials.
And piping.
Yeah. So they're going to be able to get it out past the fences and dig a ditch where it doesn't have a natural flow out to the road ditches. They're going to.
Are they digging a pond for it, or is
No.
there something? I noticed it was going to run to a pond. It looked like in the diagram.
They had put that on one plan, and that is not part of the plan.
So that's not it.
No, the ditches that were on that plan are accurate. We're not doing the pond.
Okay.
But there's some ditches drawn on there, and those ditches are accurate.
What happened that the first engineer missed it?
They didn't engineer it.
It wasn't engineered to begin with. So is it going to come out of the funds that are there and not the donations then is what's going to happen?
So there's been donated funds and there's rec park funds, and it'll come out of a combination of those, yeah.
But we have the money to do it. So
Yes.
It's not really optional, it just needs to be done.
Right.
Yeah, so.
So there's not gonna be loans or anything like that?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve the change order to the synthetic turf install project for a cost not to exceed $326,962.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Bowman and a second by Mrs. Beer to approve the change order for the drainage for a cost not to exceed $326,962. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Bowman,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Brooks,
No.
Dowling,
No.
Swallow,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll adjourn the Economic Development Authority meeting. All right, Drew's going to be late, but he's coming. Item 4, presentation from Apprentice Information Systems to explain their City of Alva IT bid proposal. Cornell Cross, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
I guess I should have signed this.
Is here to explain the proposal that Apprentice has given us, that we, from our process where we sought proposals.
Good afternoon, everybody. Definitely want to make this question and answer as well, so stop me if you need to ask questions, but I will try not to take too much time here. First off, I would state that this project is really a lot of smaller projects that have been stuck all into one large, massive project, so let's make that clear. What we would do out at, let's say, the cemetery is going to look a lot different than what you would do here at City Hall. And so there are different levels of coordination that are going to be needed to do it. Overall, however, the way we built our quote for the bid focuses around 4 main phases. The first one being the Microsoft tenant, which is currently managed by your current provider. The second one would be infrastructure, which is your cybersecurity and your switching, cabling, anything that goes with that. So the replacement of with the stack that we use. The third phase would be the workstation environment, basically your computers. Part of the bid was to move the city to a cloud environment wherever possible, with the ultimate goal of having it all be in a cloud environment. Part of the survey that we had to do was to look over all the workstations that the city currently uses to make sure that they could even move to a cloud environment. There was 7 computers that could not. We use Microsoft, to make that clear. Microsoft Azure and Intune requires that a computer that is going to be moved to cloud environment must have a TPM 2.0 chip, otherwise it won't work. So we had to quote some on there to replace ones that weren't. The rest of them that were in the city are. So we will move those over. Of course, that also has to go in tandem with the server you currently have as well. So you have work pending with Tyler Tech to move your software off of that server into a cloud environment. Once that's done, we can then continue with removing the server from the environment. The final part of it will be VoIP. You currently use what's called an on-prem system. You have a little server box over in your rack over there. That's what's controlling your phone system. We're going to move you to a cloud-managed system, so it doesn't require any kind of on-prem server to manage your environment. You give me a call, we type it into a web page, done. So those are the 4 phases. A couple of things that we always try to help people understand about this job is that you have some pretty unique assets here. Right now there is a conduit that goes between City Hall here through the police department over to the annex that's ready for us to pull fiber. We are going to do that in this job. So there will be a fiber connection between those sites. The other thing that we plan on doing is working with the PWA group to have them put conduit down between PWA and water.
Public Works.
Yep. And Public Works and street, so that we can pull fiber to those locations. And the reasoning for that is that I don't have to put firewalls at those locations. I don't have to get you separate internet. I can control all of that from the water department. brings your cost down on the physical side of things, and plus fiber is just a good 40-year solution. Fiber ain't gonna be going anywhere anytime soon. Once it's there, it's there. Overall though, I mean, other than the fact that there are some technically challenging jobs in this, which is the kind of stuff we love to do, a lot of your sites are pretty straightforward. I mean, your civic center, EMS, cemetery, those are all jobs that are single, solitary sites. Get them set up, they should work as intended. But I think the couple of things I will point out, sanitation has probably one of the worst internet connections in the city. So we're going to be getting a solution out there that will make that much more stable. It's called a PEP link. Basically, it's using wireless transmission cellular to give them a solid connection over there. Now, there's no such thing as 100%. Fiber can be cut. As we found out with AT&T's, cell phone towers can go down. But right now, what they are using is so slow that half of the time they don't even connect. So anything that they do over there is going to be a long ways better than what it is right now. Last thing I'll probably go over before I would just say if you have questions, we can certainly work our way through it, is that Apprentice does everything through annual contracting. Once our technology is installed and up and running, we don't trip charge on our work. If it's under contract, we're going to come out on it if we have to. We have 4 different levels of support. So the first people you get a hold of when you call in are first responders. Usually have about a 40% ratio of ending an issue right there. Should they not be able to handle it, they're going to send it to our level 2 group, which is either, well, in this case, our hardware support team. If they can't handle it, it's going to go to engineering. At that point, if we determine that it's going to require a technician on site, we will dispatch. So that's your 4th level. Tulsa's 3 hours away, so normally as long as we know in the morning, we probably can be out here the same day. If you tell us at the end of the day, we'll probably be out next morning. But we aren't going to charge for something that's on that contract. If we are asked to do something that is outside of the contract, we're going to tell you up front. We're not going to show up, do the work, send you a bill. We're going to say right away, hey, this goes beyond the edge of the contract. This is the labor cost. Is that okay with you? And if you approve it, then we'll work. If not, we'll have to come up with a different solution to get it right. But based upon everything we're seeing right now, there isn't going to be much outside of the contract. So that's the goal. We want to give you as much as possible a comprehensive 100% solution to what's going on in the city of Alva. So certainly like to take questions if you have any. I don't try to get too granular on the tech unless somebody in here is a very techie person and certainly wants to ask questions. I have our director of hardware and our engineering lead on the Teams call, and they can certainly answer any questions you may have on that part.
What EDR solution do you use?
Derek, you want to step in and answer some questions about that?
Yeah, it was what EDR solution do we use, is that correct?
Yes.
WatchGuard EPDR. It's their endpoint detect and response product.
So I assume you probably use WatchGuard firewalls as well?
That is correct.
That is correct, yes. We utilize WatchGuard firewalls as well.
Yes, this is Dave, the director of hardware. I'd like to add to that. We are also a WatchGuard partner. So any issues that we have direct correspondence with a representative there that handles our case, handles our contracts that we have. So you should feel comfortable with that. Anything you should be able to address directly with the vendor.
Switching equipment, is that you Cisco, HPE? I know you're an HPE partner.
That's correct. So all of our switching is going to be through HPE Aruba. We are on state contract for that as well. That is the technology that we have found time and time and time again fits the needs of the clients that we deal with. While we certainly didn't plan it this way, but even the state of Oklahoma uses HPE Aruba as their preferred switching. So that enterprise solution, whether it's state, whether it's county, whether it's municipal, it works in all environments for everything that it needs to do.
technical questions, but would you mind sharing with the council maybe some comparable communities that you're working in Oklahoma?
I mean, the largest municipality that would match Alva is Stroud, which is, I think, maybe 500 population less. I'd have to check the numbers. But we do just about all facets. I think the only thing we don't do is their golf course. They just haven't asked. But other than that, we do their water treatment. We do City Hall, PD, fire, the EMS, PWA. I mean, pretty much anywhere in Stroud you go, we do it. Much more closer to home. We are the provider to a number of county offices here in Woods County. We do the City of Winoka's IT. And then much further around, we do all of the IT for Grant County. We do the IT for Shattuck, Gage, Texas County. We do some stuff for Beaver County, all the way to Boise City. We're in this part of the state pretty deeply. Oh, and I probably should mention we do the IT for OML as well. So we are, go ahead.
So not including, hardware, I know there's gonna be some one-time fees, but what is our, yearly fee after we pay for hardware and stuff that's just gonna keep you guys maintaining us and the support? Where is that outlined?
Sure.
at?
So I have the final quotes here.
Okay.
So your annual on the phone system support, this not monthly, this is just the annual, so you can divide this if you so
Okay.
wish to, is $1,050. So that's the entire year. If you need me to change names, get someone back into their voicemail, change your call flow, you name it, you've got it. There's that.
So will you have people at the weekly supervisor meetings? Is that figured in there or on site? I was told the current, IT support, attends the weekly supervisor meetings.
I am more than happy to make sure that if you need a assuming we can do it by Teams, may not always be able to be in person, but always happy to be anywhere you need us to be. So that's the first time I've had a municipality ever ask us to do something like that, but it's not.
I was just told that currently that's what's.
Yeah.
And, do you have any issues working with the OSBI server? I don't know what it's called.
We are CJIS certified.
Okay.
All of us are. Let me.
What's it called? Otis server? Otis, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what CJIS is, that's Criminal Justice Information Systems. For you to be able to and it's not even necessarily even OSBI, because if you were to call them about Otis, they would tell you that you don't necessarily have to be CJIS. It's OLETS. OLETS is the one that actually connects to the federal department database. They do require whoever is in that area to be CJIS. So that is something to keep in mind, that all of our technicians are, they used to call it level 4, they have a new name for it now, but even I have to take the test, because I even do work sometimes inside of departments as well. So the answer is yes, we have no issues there.
You spoke of 3 levels. What's the difference in the 3 levels you were saying?
Derek, do you want to talk about the differences between level 1, level 2, and engineering? Or David?
Yeah, sure I can. Essentially, we work as a triage desk here. And so, similar to a hospital, someone who comes in with a cough, it's going to work first in, first out, and then triage. So, if somebody comes in with their arm cut off, right, we're going to address that need first. So, if you guys call in and say, hey, we've got the entire city down, you're going to jump line, right, in front of people who have, hey, I can't print this morning. The levels are essentially just the process that we work through. So essentially when you call in, you're not going to call directly to L3. You're going to call in and level 1, they're likely going to be able to solve your problem, right? I think he stated 40%. It's actually in the 70% from the hardware perspective.
Okay.
So account lockouts, things of that nature. Your level 1 team is going to handle that when you're on the phone, or you can send an email, right? After that, if let's say you call in with a more challenging issue and the level 1 team is not able to resolve it, it's going to go to the level 2 team. Those guys handle, probably almost the rest of the cases. There's probably maybe 10% of cases come to the level 3 engineering team, and that's where level 2 isn't able to solve your problem. And we can't figure out why this account continually keeps getting locked out, right? Or, hey, they accessed this file yesterday, today they can't access it. And we continue to hunt, we can't find it, right? They're going to involve the engineering team, and they're going to do a deeper dive. That's your that's your end-all, be-all, unless there's something physically broke, right? Like if you call in and you say, hey, I spilled coffee all over my laptop, that's obviously going to require deployment. We're going to deploy somebody out there, work to get a loaner in place while we work to get that laptop repaired or replaced. That's essentially the levels that we have here. I hope that answered your question.
Well, I was thinking it might be money that, okay, we'll service you to this point, and if you want to spend more money, we'll service you to this point.
No, but the price that you pay, you get all those levels, right? And like Cornell said, if it's under contract, if you've got a workstation that's under contract, whether you call us 5 times or 500 times, whether we make 2 trips or 200 trips, you're going to pay the same amount for that machine, right?
I certainly hope I don't have to come 500 times, but, you know.
Certainly.
But if we had to ship someone out here every day, you're not going to pay for that trip.
So on the page 40,
Right.
on the part that says not bidding, can you explain to me what?
Yes, the library. Frankly, we just don't like dealing with federal rules and such as that. They go way, way deeper than state, county, and municipal.
So you're not doing a whole. The library is something you just don't want to touch.
Yeah, the federal reporting requirements are pretty onerous, and it's not that we don't have the technology that can handle it. It's just it's more work than we feel is something we want to get our hands on. Plus, it was also an optional. It was not something that was required. We really do focus on municipal and county. That's all we do. And so when you start talking about other areas of government that we don't handle, we're just not outfitted to deal with federal staff. I mean, other than CJIS, but dealing with actual federal regulation, we just don't want to.
So how is the library not considered municipal?
Cornell, let me jump in here. So
sure.
the primary reason why I pulled the tech side and said, hey, we don't want to address this right now, is because it had a separate tech stack than the rest of the city, right? So if you notice, they had different infrastructure, they had different equipment. Yes, it's being managed by the same vendor, but none of their equipment was tied back to the city, and so it felt like a separate project. So it's not necessarily that we won't ever do it, because we do this for other cities, right? We do this for Stroud, and so it's just that in this specific project, we wanted to handle the city stuff first, and it felt like there may have been a specific reason as to why it was specified as optional, and so we wanted to address the city side, the city bigger project first, and if we need to, we're more than happy to come back and address the library part. It just, since that library was not directly tied into the resources of the city, it felt like maybe this was something we would address at a later date.
And the library, they expressed that their needs are being met, separate of the cities and
Right.
I was going to finish answering your question, though, on something else. You were asking about annuals.
Yes.
So I'm going to go to Project C first, because we need to have a special conversation about B. So Project C is the infrastructure, firewall and switching, APs, all that stuff. Your annual cost on that is $21,380. So between phones and your network, anything that it touches, talking about $20,000. That's annual. It's all in, all service calls, all trip charges. There are none. They're all in there. Covers if something goes into life on the firewall side. Firewall goes into life, we're just going to take it out, put a new one in. You don't get a bill for it. It's part of your maintenance. Part B is the one that really is the heaviest cost. And Derek, you are certainly willing to talk more about this if you want, but this is your Microsoft licensing. You have a pretty large footprint here. The annual on this part is $55,000. This is all your licensing. It does also cover the workstation part of it, which is support and maintenance, depending on if it's a machine that we provide, or if it's one that is not a Dell. We are a Dell house. That's the company that we do the work with, so we are certified to repair those. If it's something that we can show that it is in our tech stack, we can fix it. So that's maintenance. On the support side, you have a lot of Lenovo's in here. We're not a Lenovo house. Not to say that a computer is not a computer. Understood. But because we're not a Lenovo partner, we don't have access to all of their back-end support and such. That is something that if it did come up, we would advise that, hey, we can support this. Our level 1, 2, and 3 teams can certainly look into remote support. If we have to send someone out on site to look it over. But at that point, if we see that there's a physical, and this was in our bid, we did put that in there. There is a physical failure going on. We'll either present you parts and labor or replacement. But we were upfront about that, and just so you know, I'll state it again, just so it's not hidden or anything like that. But this is your cost right here, is this B, is the everyday user environment. Every single employee who has a computer that has Microsoft licensing, you are on the high end of the enterprise licensing currently. One of the things we did state in our bid is that we are, once we take over that tenant, we're going to audit that. We need to understand why you are where you are. Without, we're not currently the owners of that tenant. We certainly had access to at least see what your licensing was. But until we understand why you are at that, and there may be a good reason, but there may be some cost savings there.
Okay.
If we can bring some of those licensing costs down, we certainly will.
And this equipment we talk about that we're getting, that is all owned by us. It's not leased. It has nothing. It's not tied to the contract or anything.
No. If you bought all this equipment, and God's sake, I hope you don't, but in 3 years you fire us, we're going to give you the keys, and we're going to walk away. And they will be yours. I think the city, I've been in a lot of bids. And I've been in counties where I was up against someone who was leasing versus us selling. And of course the bids look very different, right? Because one person's not selling you their stuff, and we're selling you the equipment. And the argument always comes down to, if you're not happy with your current vendor, you don't own it. With us, we feel the pressure to make sure we're keeping you happy, because if you aren't happy with us, you own that equipment, and you can kick us out and give those keys to someone else. So it behooves us to be good stewards of the relationship with your city.
And so contract-wise, how long does your contract run?
Annual, July to June.
Price increasing-wise, is that something that, we get all set up with you and you're going to hit us with a 40% price increase? Is there anything that protects us from something like that happening?
Yeah, what I'll say is this, is I probably didn't talk about who I am, but I used to work for the state of Oklahoma. I was the very first Oklahoma employee for apprentice. In the entire time that I have been with the company, the price increases have been usually $10 to $20 difference, which is a very small amount.
Yeah.
In fact, I've seen years where, and you have to understand, we base these things on a couple of factors. The first one being, what are our vendors doing? If Microsoft raises the price, then of course now there's nothing we can do about that. That's just inflation, and that's the world we live in. The other half of that, though, also goes down to how much are we getting on a yearly basis across the entire fleet that we manage in 2 states, Arkansas and Oklahoma, of certain types of work. And if we see that, hey, we're just not getting a ton of calls on one thing, that's one thing. But if we're getting a bajillion calls on something else, so there is some leveling that goes on there. And Derek, or David, I don't know. I mean, you've been doing this longer than me, so you probably can provide a little more understanding on that part of the differences of when maintenance changes. But it certainly is not 40%.
Right. Yeah, you're so like I said, our contracts are annual, and we do budgetaries before your next fiscal year, right? So in the event that there's going to be a price change, you're going to get a budgetary from us saying, hey, this is how much we expect the vendors to increase their prices, right? Whether it's from WatchGuard, whether it's from Microsoft, no matter who it's from, any of the vendors, if they increase their prices, you're likely going to see an increase on our side. But we'll send you a budgetary that will say, hey, this is what looks like it's going to change in 2025, or I guess it would be 2026, because 2025 starts in July, right, for you guys. before 2025 or 2026 starts, you're going to get a budgetary mix.
I think it's April.
You probably know,
I think
somewhere
it's
around there. You'll get a budgetary saying, hey, this is what it looks like your maintenance contract is going to be for the upcoming year, right? So increases happen almost solely based on the manufacturer, right? Who's setting prices and changing our licensing costs.
There was one year, I think it was like 2 years ago, we had our workstation maintenance pricing at a price, and then the next year it actually went down. I'm not saying it happens a lot, but it does happen. So, but yeah, it's not going to be, if we thought we were going to see a large increase on something, you would be notified well in advance so that we could plan with you on this stuff. Because frankly, again, this is going to be a funny statement to say, I'm not here to make money on you. My goal is to have a relationship with you so that you get the best bang for your buck. You've got a large city with a lot of issues. And I mean just with all that you do. And so, and especially considering what happened last year when we were doing the site survey, we learned about what happened with the water department. Things like that, that's only growing. Those issues are happening more and more every day. That's the challenge, is how do we secure City of Alva so that something like that doesn't happen again? Is there a 100%? Let me make this clear. No. There is no 100%. Microsoft has been hacked. The U.S. government the U.S. Marshals got hacked and their database on who was being surveilled was hacked. So if they can be hacked, anybody can. But how much layers can we put in between you and the bad guy so that you at least can go home and say, I feel safe today?
Something like that was to happen. Do you have any sort of emergency support?
Oh, you'll know. I'll give you an example. Recently, we had a client up in the Panhandle. I won't say who, but a person clicked on something that ended up being bad. We knew almost instantaneously. And we were able to slap that person out of the network in the sense that we removed them from the environment. Suddenly their workstation's not even working anymore. Like, what's going on here? We gave them a call and said, hey, what did you click on? Oh, it was just in my email. And she was waiting for something it looked real. And really, email is always the number one target anyways. But it looked real, but it wasn't. And so we actually had to clean up her environment there to get them back to good. But anyway, I don't know if that answers the question, but...
and to be clear, that's included in your proposal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is, cyber response is part of this.
Can you explain what you do for end user training, education? Because you can put everything you want in place, but you're not going to stop Stephanie from clicking on something she's not supposed to. But I would like to stop Stephanie from doing that.
Made me think that that's possible. So, actually, Derek, why don't you talk about that, because it's part of our bid that we actually have user training as part of this, so that. Go ahead.
Yeah, what it's speaking to is what we call cybersecurity awareness training, or what the industry calls cybersecurity awareness training. And essentially, what that is that's a platform that we utilize to give out basically computer-based learning programs, right? So we can build these courses, and they're typically quarterly, right? And so each quarter, your users will be assigned a course, and the objective is for them to go through and they'll learn about new tactics and techniques that bad guys use, and hey, this is what an email looks like that's legit, here's an email that's not legit, right? It's going to walk them through these processes and help educate them on protecting PII information, any other, it can cover everything from financial information to HIPAA information. And it's going to help them understand these are kind of red flags. If you see this, you want to mention something to somebody, you want to call us, and if you need to verify that this is a legitimate email, or hey, don't just click that link. If you see that payroll says, hey, you need to change your deposit information, pick up and call Pam down at the payroll office. So that's courses, and then also quarterly there's quizzes, right? So what it does is it will grade them, and we have the ability to say, okay, information to whoever, right? If the boss says, hey, I want to know how my employees are doing. Are they A, doing this work, or B, are they even passing it, right? We can provide that information to them as well. The objective there is to educate the end user, right? Because that's the biggest vulnerability in any computer-based environment, right? It's always the end user. Because people are not predictable and they'll click on who knows what because they signed up for the coupon printer, right? So that's a service that we do offer, and like Cornell said, it's in our bid. That is our primary training tool. Now, of course, it's only as good as the folks enforcing it, right? If there's no one saying, yes, you have to do this, or hey, you need to take this, then obviously they're not going to do it. It takes some time, right? But it's a good product. It's just people have to be willing to spend some time once a quarter to read some slides, right? Read some slides, watch some videos, take the opportunity to try and educate themselves, about cyber awareness.
So as far as accountability is concerned, do you provide reports to our leadership to allow them to hold their staff accountable?
Yeah, certainly, absolutely. So let's say, once a quarter or at the end of each quarter or whatever, if a certain area, and people may request for reports more often, however they want to do it, we're more than happy to do it, but we can do it on demand if we need to. If some random Tuesday, somebody calls in and says, hey, I want to see what, my department, and it's these 5 users, have they done their stuff? I can send and say, yeah, here's if they did it, here's how long it took them, here's if they passed it, here's if they failed it, and then they can take that information and they can address it with their staff if they need to. Hopefully that answers your question.
So you can do that kind of based on our preferences then. So if we want to know every time somebody fails and doesn't pass, then you can let us know. If you can let us know all that.
Certainly. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So like I said, we can do it on demand, or we can say, okay, if you want us to send you an email every time somebody fails, we can. If you want to say every time somebody passes and gets their quote unquote, certificate, we can do that. We can kind of build it however you like.
I had a question about the Project C, specifically for the equipment. Do you have a breakdown of what the majority of that money is, the $140,000? Is that mostly routing and switching equipment, or?
Well, it's going to be cut between 2 different things. It's going to be equipment and it's going to be labor. And this is going to be a lot of work. But having said that, let me see here. I mean, I'm just going to give round numbers here. A full 80,000 of that is just going across the entire city and putting in your new tech stack. Just everywhere that needs to be put in.
Does that include, you mentioned those fiber lines for the conduit to the different buildings? I know that we have one in place, but we were looking to expand that to 2 different.
No, we do have fiber. We have a separate line for fiber. You have one in place.
I guess we have that conduit.
You have the conduit.
Yeah, but
last time, as far as I was aware, you didn't have fiber anywhere. So.
Yeah, and so is that part of that labor cost is to extend those fiber?
We do have labor in there for that. Yes, I mean. That's $7,000 for all 3 locations that we're going to do it, including terminating, pulling, the labor on it, the fiber itself, all of it. So, Derek, am I missing anything on that? Because it also includes things like the couplers.
That's relying on Drake and his team to trench and install that conduit. Yeah, and then we'll pull and terminate the fiber as long as we'll work out a design plan for them on laying the conduit.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys aren't necessarily laying the conduit, but pull it through there?
So we're going to lay the conduit, just kind of keep the cost down.
Okay, do we have an idea of that cost?
It's minimal. We got our ditch working, there's some...
Fair enough, but we won't have to tear up any streets or anything like that?
No,
through it? Okay.
It's basically going from public works, kind of on the backside of the dirt, up to water, and then we'll get over to streets, we'll try to go under the road with that conduit.
All right, what's the square footage on that? Like, how far are we going? Is that a mile even?
No, not even close.
Oh, yeah. No, I think
it's 800 feet between public works and water, and it's probably 200 feet to streets.
All right, and are we doing it, Are we doing it directly to the hub, or are we going from each location to location?
So you've got the water department is going to be what's called the MDF, the main data frame, or distribution frame, whatever you want to call it. And that is where we're going to put the firewall. And that's where the 2 fibers are going to come in. So we're feeding basically internet and network out to PWA into street. So those only need switching. I mean, whatever else that goes with that, but no firewalling, no internet anymore out there. They're going to be fed to the water department. So all the protections come from there.
Okay.
And honestly, it's considering what you've got going on right now. You've got a firewall there, you've got a firewall there, you've got a firewall there, you've got internet. It's just, this really consolidates that down. So when someone says, I've got a problem at, my computer's not connecting today, we're going to know that the water department is the hub for that building. And everything goes back and forth from there. And we're, frankly...
And yes, your question in regards to if they will be, yes, they'll connect back to the main hub at the water center. So if one facility goes down, it won't impact the other, right? So we're not taking fiber from point A to point B and then from point B to point C. So in the event that point B goes down, point C also goes down. It will be point A to point B and then point A to point C.
Yeah.
So if point A goes down, then that is obviously going to impact B and C.
Yes, if your internet service provider has an outage at the water department, then keeping in mind, I can't control the ISP. Now, one thing that could be discussed down the road, and of course there was a discussion in the packet about advising the city on things that they could do better. One of the things that you could definitely look into is having a backup circuit there. Yes, it's more cost. There's that. You could put something in wireless though. So if you've got a fiber coming in for your main internet, you could have a PEP-Link or something as a backup circuit. So that way at least critical infrastructure that runs the city's resources doesn't go down. Again, there's no 100%, but you can knock those down quite a bit.
And I'm a little bit ignorant on this actual number, but from my understanding, the majority of the PCs that the city uses are Lenovo, because that's the preferred of our previous vendor. Do you know how many are not Lenovo that are committed to this workstation?
Make me look for the notes. It was mostly Lenovo, though, I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, there's a couple of HPs, but it was Lenovo almost everywhere. And
I just didn't know, do we have an age on that? Because I didn't know on the idea of replacing those moving forward.
I mean, they were, what I would say is that as far as what we were asked to do, which was make the environment cloud compliant, they all at least were current enough that we could, Intune them, that's the Microsoft term for that, to point to a cloud server. That is the key part right there.
Yeah.
And so they were there. The ones that we identified that weren't, I mean, they got to go. We can't manage them remotely. That's where Dell will go.
Oh, and I guess that's part of the equipment cost.
Yes, it is.
Those computers.
Yep.
When we do move to Intune, what type of authentication can our end users expect?
We usually have Microsoft Authenticator as, it's MFA. You will move to MFA. It's a pain in the butt for some people. I get it. When Microsoft slapped that down on everybody back in September, the number of phone calls we got just for this shot through the roof. Now, I think after the last 6 months, there's been some acceptance about it, but I don't think we will ever hear the end of, I hate this stupid thing. And I mean, I get it. Mine's set daily. When I wake up in the morning, it's waiting for me when I want to check my emails. If I move across another cell tower, guess what? I'm re-authenticating because now I'm not on the cell tower I was before. But the point about, now, keeping in mind, we don't usually do daily authentication for our clients. And Derek can speak to that. But the point of that is we want to make sure that the person logging into your city equipment is the person who's sitting there and not somebody from China. And I can speak to that personally because I woke up one morning on a Saturday, looked at my phone, and it says, do you want to allow this request? And it literally zoomed a map into a neighborhood in China. And I'm like, no, and I had to change my password. That's the point. Again, no 100%, but it certainly does help on cracking down on most of that. The other thing about that also is with the Microsoft Authenticator app, it's free, number one. Don't use any other one. If it's charging you, it's not the right one. But you can even change your own password in there. So if you want to go in and change your password, you can do it from there. That's just our method.
All right. Does that mean that, I'm assuming that each employee has to enroll that device, and I think I saw this in the contract. Does this bid include mobile device management? And then will we push policy for individuals' personal phones and stuff like that?
Are you saying like if you want email on your phone?
Yeah, email on your phone or the ability to set it up as the authentication token app. I'm assuming that
yes,
if you
I
have
mean-
a phone that's city-owned, it's less of a hassle than if it's your personal phone.
So like, when you go to do this, your authenticator will be right here.
The authenticator.
But the question is MDM on cell phones, and we currently don't have any plans to enroll the cell phones into an MDM solution like Intune. We can address that if that is something that the city desires, but at this point we don't have any intentions on enrolling the phones or forcing the phones to be enrolled by an MDM. Especially if they're personal phones. Now, if the city has issued cell phones and we want to look at setting a policy for these city-owned assets, we certainly can, but it becomes an interesting challenge whenever you implement this on end users' phones that are their personal phones, right? They got their kid photos and whatever other personal things that they do on their cell phones, right? And so, yes, you'll see mobile device management, but that's speaking specifically towards the Intune product that's focused towards corporate-owned assets.
But if you're talking about simply authentication, then the app is on your device. Now, you can do these token things, but we really do prefer people to have MFA on their device, because almost always, you're going to have your phone with you. You may not always have your token with you. In fact, we tell people, please don't bring that with you. Leave it at your desk, for God's sake. But that's what this is for. That if you're at a conference in Oklahoma City for some reason, and you have to authenticate, you kind of want your authentication with you.
So what is the yearly cost that we're paying now opposed to what this is going to cost us? I mean, we have that number. Yeah, with SBI.
Roughly $125,000.
Is what we're currently paying?
Yeah. It fluctuates, so it stays right around $125,000.
$125,000 is what we currently pay. And your all-in yearly costs, you said the $1,050, $21,380, $55,000. What else is there?
The only other thing you'll have, and this isn't us, but this is just a factor of having phones, is you have to have a phone company.
Of course.
So we haven't even gotten to that part yet. But so we are, I guess in the old days, Ma Bell was your servicer and your carrier. Usually they didn't separate out those two services. If you had a problem, you called AT&T, they sent an AT&T tech. Most people don't do it like that anymore. So your carrier is Nextiva. That's who we use. That's who I'm going to program for you. That's who's going to make your dial tone. Your servicer is us. So we've already discussed the servicer side. The Nextiva cost is that one parenthesis right over there where it says $963.18 a month. That is your new phone bill.
That's for all the locations.
That is everything.
And is our current phone bill, I'm assuming probably not included in that 125, that's a separate cost currently? So,
yeah.
Do we have an idea of what our current phone bill is compared to?
I can look it up tomorrow.
Okay.
And the thing about VoIP is, in the cloud managed realm, is it's all licenses now. There's no, you don't pay by phone numbers. Phone numbers are free. You want a new phone number? I'll get you a phone number. But if you need to add a license to your system because you have a new user, that's the cost.
Okay.
And so, and of course, they've got various levels of licensing too, depending on what that person needs to do. But that's what that represents, is the number of users in the city of Alva that are going to be in a cloud managed system.
So when you say the phone, so are these phones, is it like connected through the internet? Is that how these phones work? Okay.
Yep. And there will be a physical phone. We are a Polycom distributor, and we have very little issues with them. They're a very solid phone. So everywhere there needs to be a phone, there will be a phone. However, if somebody wants to also be able to sign into the app, because it's a cloud managed system, you can, and you'll get an email. If you are actually one of the people I've already listed, you're going to get an email to your City of Alva email address. You can go to Nextiva, get your password reset done, download the app, and now you can make phone calls from the app on your phone, but it's not using your phone number. It's using data, but it's doing it through the app, and it looks like it's ringing from your desk. So you don't have to give out your private number anymore. And if you're at a meeting and you are waiting for that call, and they transfer it to your extension, it's going to ring on your cell phone. It's not ringing your cell phone, but it's ringing through the app. So it keeps all those conversations what should be city is city and what should be personal is personal. You can even, in some cases, if you desire to, be able to text as well.
So looking at those numbers with 125 and then the numbers you gave me, is it approximately a $38,000 savings? Would you say that's pretty close?
The math I did on his, when you look at the, you've got everything in here prorated, but when you look at their annual cost, it's roughly $80,000.
$80,000 a year, okay.
Yeah.
That is, it's
Right around.
77.
Yeah, 77.
Yeah.
I like to round up.
So,
Thanks for the wiggle room.
and we're paying them approximately 125, so
Yeah.
there's a savings that the equipment cost is there, but it will pay off over time.
Yeah.
Pretty
The
quick.
savings we're going to see.
And again, the only thing you're going to pay for is if you purchase something. I just want to make that clear. We're not going to, other than what may happen if Microsoft raises the price or whatever, that number isn't going to just jump someday unless you, well, like here's an example. In the bid packet it said, vendors be aware, we're going to want cameras at these locations in the future. I mean, it's stated now you're going to be required to do this work. Understood. That carries its own cost, but that's not here, so you're not going to pay for that until you actually get that service.
I guess I have a question about that, but as far as future cost goes, what is the future cost of as the Lenovo computers die off that you'll replace those? Because I'm assuming that you're not going to manage them for free, so I'm assuming that there's an endpoint cost established with that.
Yeah, the support cost per device is $250
$250
annually on those Lenovo's or anything that's not Dell.
Okay, and so that's kind of like, I guess we're technically paying our current IT vendors to manage those individual devices. What do they charge us per device?
I couldn't tell off the top of my head.
Fine. How many devices do you think we have? Like 50?
No, it's more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, let me look into my. That's what I was doing when I got asked another
Because
question.
that's what, I guess, in a few years, you can imagine that will be an increase to your fees.
And also on that, so what you're saying is so I've asked everybody to look at their current computers they have and try to figure out their age and as we go to this year's budget. If you've got something that's 3 to 5 years old, let's try to budget to replace that next year.
Yeah.
Once we go to Dell's, that $250 you talked about goes away, is that correct?
That cost will go away.
Yeah.
Then you'll go to a maintenance cost and said, let me explain the difference between support and maintenance. Support says, hey, this is a device that we're not a partner of. We don't sell Lenovo. We're going to make sure right up to repair.
Yeah.
You're going to have help. Microsoft throws it, because the goal is, again, we're going to try to get these things to Intune. So there's a lot of fun things you can do when a computer is connected to that. You can almost diagnose anything. But if it comes down to a physical issue, that's when you're going to get the quote. Now, the Dell side of house, and by the way, I'm looking at the computers here. Let me give you that total too. 34. Yep. Of which 7 need to be replaced.
Of which how many?
34. Of which 7 have to be replaced. So that's 20%.
Okay. What is the cost per computer to replace those?
Roughly $1,500.
Okay.
So we only sell the enterprise level. Again, government is an enterprise environment. Just what it is. Having said that, if you're getting a Dell from us, that is something that now we're going to put our full faith and trust into. That means it's up to us now to make sure that it's working for as long as the life of that. Because keeping in mind, there are things that can be end of life, pulled out, put in. Part of your maintenance. A computer, ultimately, when you think about it, it's kind of an expendable device. At some point, it's going to go end of life and you're just going to have to get a new one. So we would then, at that point, sell you a new one. But the maintenance contract, Derek, is it $570 on maintenance per device? Or David?
Yeah, so for Dell products, I want to say, I think starting in their new fiscal year in July, $600 a machine a year for Dell machines.
So that covers all tech calls, all parts, all the labor that goes with it, and if it has to be replaced,
you got it,
we're going to replace it.
parts, labor, replacement if it needs to be, exactly. So parts, labor, trip charges, loaners, rebuilds, and up to replacement.
Yeah.
Which is not covered under that current Lenovo price model of $250, right? $250 if there's a hardware problem, you know what I'm parts and labor will be quoted, or a replacement machine will be quoted.
Just out of curiosity, when we draw that line of the hardware issues, does that include like issues brought on by Lenovo-specific updating for their different devices? You know what I mean? Like if Lenovo has to update a patch to fix some sort of security release, is that something you guys will handle, or because that's a software, or does that go to the hardware causes that issue?
I'm going to speak to what I do, and Derek can either slap me or not, but if somebody calls me and says, hey, I'm having something go wrong, why is my microphone not working today? The first thing I'm going to ask is, did you do your updates? Because Microsoft is the world's leading software provider. It is ubiquitous everywhere, and they are the world's worst hacker. They break their own stuff more often than anyone else in the world. And so, and I'll give you an example. It was like 2 years ago, they sent out an update to the world, and people who had like Savin and Toshiba printers, if you sent a print job, you got the blue screen of death. So, there is that. So we had to roll those computers back to the before the update. But, having said that, 9 times out of 10, someone calls me and says my microphone's not working. It's probably because there's an update and they haven't done it. So I'll remote in and I'll show them how to do it. I'll say you type in updates in your taskbar and there you go. And oh, there it is right there. They do the update, works again. Covered. I mean.
No, so I guess you guys will provide the support.
Yes, that remote support is in that price model.
Okay. Does that also mean that you guys will package the updates and send them through Intune?
Derek, you're going to have to answer that one.
I'm including...
Yeah, so if the... Yeah, sure. So Lenovo is likely going to have a specific updater like DCU that's going to handle... DCU's Dell Command Update, right? That's going to handle BIOS changes and stuff like that. Windows Updates is going to focus on, Windows products, Microsoft products. So as for packaging updates specifically for Lenovo, we don't currently have any plans to do that. I'm not familiar with the update packager that Lenovo uses. For Dell products, we use the Dell Command Update tool. However, if there is a tool that we need to implement for the Lenovo products, we certainly can. But that portion is not in this bid. What we do have in this bid is Windows updates, which will be handled by Intune, right? So it's not going to handle your Lenovo specific updates.
All right.
But keeping in mind, almost everything that you could put a pin to is usually going to be through your Windows stuff anyways. So,
yeah.
Now, that isn't to say that we can't advise somebody, hey, go to this website, download the Lenovo thing and run it. It's not hard. I mean, if they've got it, we can know what it is. But
yeah, but he was speaking towards proactively.
Yeah, putting it into the Intune image. That's a different.
We're not going to be proactively doing it. If someone does call in and we're able to find that the resolution is pulling down something from Lenovo's site, absolutely, that's something that we're more than happy to assist. The end user, or even a task for the end user. But for proactively rolling out. Device level firmware that's not handled by Microsoft, we wouldn't do that for the Lenovo platform.
Yeah, because we are a Dell household.
Or the HPE platform.
Yeah. Okay, and that, it makes sense with you guys' model and the direction you guys would like us to go in the long run.
And considering that our image really is meant for Dell, I mean.
Yeah, that's what you guys
Yeah.
like, good Dell.
I try to be upfront. That's what we do. We're Dell. So,
Just, this is kind of just future-proofing, and it's one of those things that I never expect this to ever happen. But do you guys currently have a form of cybersecurity insurance? An example would be that if worst-case scenario, because of a supply chain attack, you guys, all of our switches are bricked. Do you guys have insurance to cover for you guys the purchasing of that equipment and the replacement of it? That way, you're not just out a lot of money to purchase them.
if I hear what I think you're saying. Sorry, go ahead, Derek. Do you want to answer this? Because I think I know what he's saying, but...
Yeah, we don't... The cyber insurance we have pertains only to our business, right? So those are not assets we own. There will be your assets. So in the event that something like that were to happen, there's kind of two things. So essentially, it's anytime that in the next 99 years if it has an issue, we're going to get it overnight, right? And so anytime with the APE Aruba switching equipment, if there is an issue, that's going to be covered under their 99-year warranty, and we're going to go in overnight and send out the next day. As for if what we call acts of God, right? In the event there's an act of God, let's say lightning or something like that, or whatever it may be, you would file an insurance claim, right? If it's some sort of cyber attack, we're going to be involved heavily in the response, and because you are a contract holder, as long as you guys are holding a contract with us coming out and rebuilding your machines, restoring back up, things of that nature, those aren't going to come out of your pocket, right? All that work is going to be covered under that maintenance contract.
But the final answer really, which I was going to say, OMAG, they're your insurance holder. I mean, I know they say they don't sell insurance, and so they would slap me if I said that, but they are the ones that protect your city against that stuff. So you would, like he said, it's not like we would, if you were locked out of your switching or such, it wasn't a good example, but lightning. If you got fried, against all the things that we're going to try to put in place for surge suppression and such, we would tell you what the pricing would be. You would submit that to OMAG. OMAG would then tell you, and there you go. And of course, we would be hand in hand with them to make sure that they know everything that's going on. Yeah.
Any other questions for the presentation portion of this?
Confirm we're looking at a $40,000-ish savings. You'd say, you agree? Okay.
All right.
Is the audience allowed to ask questions?
Not on this agenda. We will, thank you, Cornell.
Absolutely.
Don't leave, we got, one more item on this, so. But we'll move on to item number 5, discussion and action to enter into negotiation with Apprentice Information System. I should have probably shared before Cornell's presentation, but we did go through a formal request for proposal process. The proposals were sent directly to local contractors, including our current contractor. Any interested party in bidding was required to be at a pre-bid meeting to have their questions addressed and then give the city an opportunity to respond to their questions, and then the answers were provided out to all of the entities. We did receive 2 proposals, one from Apprentice, the other one from a company named Geek Support. I'll go back. We had 3 companies present for the pre-bid meeting, and then 2 of them submitted proposals. We asked, between Mr. Ford and myself, we put together a team of subject matter experts locally from Northwest Tech, NWSU, and Sure Medical Center to evaluate the proposals based on, basically we had 36 criteria that we wanted the proposals to address in between the 3 areas of the project. With that, Mr. Ford, he's got some of it pulled up right now, but we asked them to rate each area on a scale of 1 to 5, basically saying how confident are you that this proposal is going to be able to meet what was requested. And so we have that information. The comparison between Geek Support and Apprentice, there's pretty good difference between the scoring. But the people that we asked to evaluate the proposals objectively quantified confidence in Apprentice over Geek Support. So So we are looking at the apprentice proposal as the one to move forward with. With that, I will say, not knowing where the bids made, the budget would land upon getting the proposals, I don't think that we can just flat out approve their proposal because budgetarily, I don't know where we're going to pull the money for VoIP, or I don't know where we're going to pull some of this. But so we have where we're at today. The action item is to enter into negotiation with Apprentice to help develop a phased approach to implementation and contract negotiation. And then when we get to that point, the contract will come back to City Council before it's approved. So right now, all we're doing is agreeing to move forward with Apprentice and act in good faith to negotiate a contract.
I would make a motion to enter into negotiation with Apprentice Information Systems.
Second.
I did have, can we still ask another question?
Give me a second. Have a motion by Mr. Winters and a second by Mr. Bowman to enter into negotiation with Apprentice Information Systems. Is there any further discussion?
Okay. If the internet goes out, is there still access to 911?
So, what are you speaking specifically as far as phones, or what are we looking at?
Well, if we lose internet connectivity.
Like here at City Hall?
Yeah, or at any of the facilities.
Yeah,
and
so-
they still call 911 through the system.
Correct. Yes, because the system itself has a couple of different fail-safes for that. Number one, and again, in my 5 years doing this, because I'm actually the guy that does the phone systems for the company, I have never once seen the phone systems go down. I mean, I've seen components, because just like AT&T and all the other companies, even Xtiva has issues. Having said that, let's say fiber gets cut at City Hall, and I'm talking the one that comes in for your internet. So now you have no internet connectivity. We can do this one of two different ways. First way is that upon the phone that receives, or the phones that receive the call in going down, it can make a decision that says all calls are forwarded to this number. So it can be a cell phone, it can be a different location, it can be anything you want it to be, really. So there's that. The other thing is that the staff themselves, which I'm sure she's going to be like, great, Cornell, can download the app, and if the phones are down, as long as you still have LTE or 5G in the area, and you have the app on, then you're still going to get phone calls. So the answer is yes, you will be able to make those calls.
Okay. I know sometimes we do have, we've had a line cut out east and there's no cell phone service. And I didn't know that would affect it too.
Yeah. I mean, if the perfect storm of someone dropping an EMP over Alva occurs, then I mean, everybody's going to be running around with their heads cut off. But other than that, as long as one of the major ways of getting connectivity exists, you will have a way out.
So there's redundancy, but there's no 100%
Now,
guarantee.
my other thing I would tell you is that if you're worried about something like that, that's why having a backup circuit is so important. So if you have fiber on one, maybe you have broadband on the other. So that way, because the chances of the fiber and the broadband both having been cut on the same day, I mean, unless that was the purpose of the destruction, one should pick up the other. And we do this with, I mean, not every client can do it. We at least let them know it's a great idea. But in places like in Cherokee County, which we run the entire courthouse over there, when their 1 gig fiber goes down, they have a 100 meg circuit that picks it up. Never have both of them been down that I can be aware of. So.
Just out of curiosity, if it's something we're going to have to deal with going down the pipe, what is the potential cost of the camera system that we'll need to implement?
We're still getting bids and trying to figure out what that's.
Oh, okay, you guys won't have to be the ones, we just have to have a camera system.
I mean, are you asking me would I like to do your cameras?
Well, I mean, I
Yes.
assume you would if you guys do, I just didn't know, okay.
But-
You guys are willing to interface with another person? on that?
Yeah, I mean, now maybe I misunderstood the bid, but I think the way it read was that whoever the winner is probably going to be asked to get a quote together for it first. And then if that's just ridiculous for some reason or another, then they may go out. Again, I can't read, I'm just reading what I see, what the intention behind it is up to the, well, you all. So.
We're talking to a few companies, we're trying to get an idea. So
But, I mean, here's the thing about that, though. It will be our responsibility to make sure that, okay, let's just assume we don't win the camera contract, okay? It still was our responsibility to make sure that they have clean connectivity. So,
I mean, I don't have any problem with the Parentis per se, just, I don't like leaving a local vendor. And, you know, I did have somebody mention they thought the way that they thought that it could have, the bid could have been broken up, we could have brought in some local vendors. And,
One local vendor showed up to the bid meeting. They all had an opportunity to, I mean, when we're preparing a proposal like this where we have multiple local vendors, potentially some council member conflicts of interest, we went to the municipal league for a recommendation on how to craft a request for proposals, because we don't want to cut anybody. We didn't want to cut anybody out. We wanted to make sure that our local contractors had an opportunity to see the same thing that everybody else, got to see as far as what the proposal would need to look at and look like, because the current contract that we have is not this extensive, and we wanted to make sure, though, that if there was somebody that was capable of doing what, meeting the needs that we foresee us having going forward, that they did have that opportunity. It didn't work out that we got a local bid, a local proposal, and so I really wanted to see a local, proposal, because number one, I want to shop local. I don't have, apprentices done work all over the state, and it's not, I don't think that they're not qualified by any stretch of the imagination. I think they're very qualified. But golly, if I'm going to talk about current projects going on, you don't know how happy I was to see Mike Martin and Byron Shirley digging out our pool. I mean, we want to support local, but if we're going to have, if we're going to do it in a fashion that we can say that there was no collusion, there was no, things of that nature that aren't okay in a public bidding, proposal process, we really didn't have a lot of leeway to not make sure that we had objective criteria that we were looking at, that we had requirements that they participate in the process. I mean, it was very much by the book, and Drew was advising us along the way, because we didn't want to get to this point and have something that could be, I guess, disputed from the grounds of how we did it. We didn't even depend on, Steve and I are, tech geniuses, and I think everybody's aware of that. But we did this with lots of input from people who weren't going to bid the project. And so we felt like that was the only way to get this proposal out there, is to have the proposal put together by people that weren't going to have a proposal. And then the last thing I want to hear is that, we, get a lawsuit on our hands from one of the out-of-town, proposers that said that we colluded with, local contractors, because that would just shoot the whole dang thing out of the water. I hear you. I wanted to use local too. Nothing, no offense. I do think Prentice will do a good job for us, but, you know, he don't live here. So, you can work on that. But I appreciate that. I don't have any other answer for it other than I do fully appreciate that, Troy.
And I'll just say this. I want to be sensitive to that. I get it. It's tough. I think anybody wants to try and keep it as close as they can because, you know, you care about your hometown. I get it. When I worked at the state, I worked in economic development, which meant working with cities who were always trying to do the best they could to grow their economies right there. Having said that, municipal cyber security is, or I would even say government cybersecurity, is not something that just anyone can do. And the threats are only getting worse. There's a big difference between cyber securing a mom and pop shop and making sure that the taxpayer data of this city, and I understand you don't do what the county does, but you do a lot of other things. And you do have a water department, and you take water payments, and those things are important to make sure that that stuff doesn't get out there. And that becomes our responsibility to try and safeguard you as much as possible. You know, we're putting our reputation on the line every single time we go into a new place in the state of Oklahoma that we don't live in. But I will tell you, I will care about you just like I would anyone else. Because I tell you, if you call Sheridan Purdue up in Boise City, she'll tell you that she feels the love from Boise City. And I certainly hope you will too.
Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Fair,
Yes.
Swallow,
Yes.
Dowling,
No.
Brooks.
No.
All right. Motion carries. Item 6, discussion and action to approve the receipt of 2023 Oklahoma Energy Efficient Lighting Retrofit Program in the amount of $43,930 and authorize city business manager to sign all necessary documents. Steve, go ahead.
So this is just another lighting grant that we got. So kind of carries on what we did here at City Hall. This was aimed at retrofitting the professional building and out at the airport and the terminal and a number of the hangars with LED lighting. So that's really what this is. It's a nice grant. There's no match required, so it's free money to help bring our energy costs down.
I'd make a motion to approve the receipt of the 2023 Oklahoma Energy Efficient Lighting Retrofit Program in the amount of $43,930 and to authorize the city business manager to sign all necessary documents.
I'll second.
Just have a motion from Mr. Winters and a second from Mr. Brooks to approve the receipt of 2023 EELRP in the amount of $43,930 and authorize the manager to sign all necessary documents. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I was just gonna, we've approved a few of these. This is not one we've already done. This is work to do.
Yeah, this is new. This just came in last week, Stephanie? Yeah, last week. So this is basically getting permission to receive the funds and do the work.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Swallow,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Fair.
Yes.
All right, there's no further business. Item 7, we are adjourned.